They returned to Dante's estate late that night, the weight of Chin's testimony and their growing feelings creating a charged atmosphere between them. Dante's head of security, Marco, met them at the door, his expression grim. "Sir, we have a problem," Marco said quietly. "Someone accessed your private files while you were gone. The encrypted drive with all your evidence on Coldwell has been copied." Dante's face went hard. The tenderness Elena had seen moments before vanishing behind a mask of cold fury. "How is that possible? Who had access?" "That's the problem, sir," Marco said, glancing at Elena apologetically. "The access codes used were yours, Ms. Martinez. Your gallery computer was used to remotely access the system." Elena felt the blood drain from her face. "That's impossible. I haven't been to the gallery in days. My computer is locked." "Someone got your passwords," Dante said, his voice carefully controlled. "Someone who knew you'd be with me today." The implication hung heavy in the air. Elena felt sick as realization dawned. "My assistant, Maria. She has keys to the gallery. She knows my passwords for inventory systems." Dante was already pulling out his phone, issuing rapid orders to his security team. "Find Maria Torres. I want eyes on her location now." "There's more," Marco said hesitantly. "An anonymous tip was called into the police an hour ago. They're claiming you're holding Ms. Martinez against her will, using her to extort money from her father. Squad cars are on their way here now." Dante swore, a string of words in Italian that needed no translation. "Coldwell knows we're coming for him. He's trying to discredit us before we can act." Elena's mind raced. "My father. If they think I'm being held hostage, they'll use it against him. They'll say he's working with organized crime. It'll destroy any chance of overturning his conviction." Dante pulled the car over to a scenic overlook, the city lights twinkling in the valley below. He turned to face Elena, his dark eyes intense in the dim light. "You'll get justice. But I need you safe. I can't lose anyone else to this man." Elena's breath caught at the raw emotion in his voice. "Dante, I know this started as a mutual investigation," he said, reaching out to take her hand. "But somewhere along the way it became more than that. You became more than that. I've spent so long focused on revenge and redemption that I forgot what it felt like to care about someone for reasons that had nothing to do with the past." Elena looked at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. Every rational part of her brain screamed warnings. This was Victor Moretti's son. This was the family she'd hated for 15 years. This was dangerous on so many levels she couldn't count them all. But her heart, her traitorous heart, had been slowly opening to him. She'd seen his kindness toward her father, his determination to right old wrongs, his vulnerability when he spoke about his own loss. She'd seen the man beneath the name, and that man had somehow become important to her. "This is complicated," she whispered. "I know," Dante replied, reaching up to gently cup her face. "But when has anything about our situation been simple? We're built from the ashes of destroyed families, searching for truth in the ruins of the past. Maybe we're supposed to be complicated." When he kissed her, soft and questioning, Elena felt 15 years of hatred and pain begin to transform into something new. Something that felt dangerously like healing. She kissed him back, letting herself feel hope for the first time in years. Hope for justice. Hope for her father. Hope for something she'd never expected to find in the heart of her enemy's son. The betrayal. "Because I've spent 3 years building a case not just against Coldwell, but against his entire network," Dante explained. "I have evidence of corruption, bribery, and murder that reaches into the highest levels of city government. But I need someone willing to come forward about the La Estrella fire. Your testimony, combined with what I've gathered, could bring down everyone involved." "And if you fail?" Chin asked. "If Coldwell walks free and comes after my family?" "He won't," Elena said suddenly, surprising both men. "Because I'm going to make sure the world is watching. If you testify, I'll make sure every news outlet, every citizen, every person in this city knows what happened. Coldwell can't hurt your family if everyone is looking." Chun studied her for a long moment. "You have your father's courage," he said finally, "and your mother's determination. That's a dangerous combination. Does that mean you'll help us?" Elena asked, hope and fear mixing in her chest. Chun closed his eyes, the weight of years of guilt and fear visible on his face. When he opened them again, there was a new resolve. I'll testify. Tell me what you need me to do. The growing attraction. As they drove back to the city, Elena felt both triumphant and terrified. They had Chen's testimony, a crucial piece of evidence that could begin to unravel Coldwell's web of corruption. But she knew this would make them targets. You're worried, Dante observed, navigating the darkening mountain roads. Aren't you? Elena replied. We're going after one of the most powerful men in the city. He's already destroyed 2 families and probably more. He won't let us expose him without a fight. No, he won't, Dante agreed. Which is why I'm going to make sure you're protected. I don't need protection. I need justice. The La Estrella fire was arson, Chen said without preamble. But Ricardo Martinez didn't set it. I knew that from the first day of investigation. The accelerant patterns were wrong. A professional did it, someone with knowledge of fire behavior and investigation techniques. They made it look like amateur work to frame your father, but they made mistakes only another professional would notice. Elena leaned forward, her heart pounding. Then why did you testify against him? Because I was told to, Chun said, shame heavy in his voice. Marcus Coldwell was on the city council then. He had connections to the police chief, the district attorney, and the mayor's office. 3 days into my investigation, I was called into a meeting. Coldwell was there, along with 2 men I didn't know. They showed me photographs of my daughter, my grandchildren. They made it very clear what would happen if I didn't support the prosecution's case against your father. Dante's hands clenched into fists. They threatened your family. They did more than threaten, Chen said, turning to face them. A week after I testified, my daughter's car was run off the road. She survived barely. The accident was ruled driver error, but I knew better. They were reminding me to stay quiet. Elena felt tears burning her eyes. My father went to prison because you were protecting your family. I know, Chen whispered. I've lived with that guilt every day since. I retired early because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. I've wanted to come forward, but I'm a coward. I'm still afraid of what they'll do to my family. What if we could protect them? Dante asked. What if we could guarantee their safety while you testify to the truth? Chun looked at him skeptically. You're Victor Moretti's son. Your father had power, but Coldwell has the entire city government behind him. How could you possibly protect my family from that? You're staring, Dante said, a slight smile playing at his lips while keeping his eyes on the road. I'm trying to figure you out, Elena admitted. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster, she said honestly. Someone like the Moretti family I'd built up in my imagination. Cold, calculating, dangerous. I am dangerous, Dante replied, his tone serious. I've done things I'm not proud of to survive in my father's world. But I'm trying to be better than what I was raised to be. This investigation, helping your father, it's part of that. Before Elena could respond, they arrived at Chen's cabin, a weathered structure nestled among towering pines. Smoke rose from the chimney, suggesting someone was home despite the lack of vehicles in the driveway. Thomas Chan answered the door after several knocks, a man in his late 60s with gray hair and weary eyes that held too many secrets. He studied Elena for a long moment before speaking. You look like your mother. Elena's breath caught. You knew my mother? I spoke with her several times during the investigation, Chen said quietly. She believed in your father's innocence. I'm sorry I couldn't help her prove it. Can you help me now? Elena asked, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. Chan looked at Dante, recognition and wariness crossing his features. I told you I wouldn't talk to you, Moretti. I know, Dante replied. But Miss Martinez deserves to hear what you have to say. Whatever happened 15 years ago, she deserves the truth. Chan stood in the doorway for a long moment before sighing and stepping aside. Come in. It's time I stopped being a coward. The cabin's interior was simple but comfortable, filled with books and the smell of wood smoke. Chan gestured for them to sit before settling into a worn armchair by the fireplace. He stared into the flames as he began to speak. Elena studied a photograph of Coldwell cutting a ribbon at a luxury apartment building. The building stood on what used to be a row of small shops and restaurants, including La Estrella. He destroyed an entire community for profit. He's been doing it for years, Dante added, pulling up more files. I found at least 6 other neighborhoods where suspicious fires or other incidents preceded major redevelopment projects where Coldwell had financial interests. He's careful, always several layers removed from the actual crimes, but the pattern is clear. Patterns aren't proof, Elena said, frustration evident in her voice. We need something concrete. Something that directly connects him to the fire. Dante leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her self-conscious. There's someone we need to talk to. Thomas Chun. He was a fire inspector 15 years ago, assigned to investigate the La Estrella fire. He retired 8 years ago and moved to a cabin upstate. He's refused to speak to me, but he might talk to you. Why would he talk to me? Because you're Ricardo Martinez's daughter, Dante explained. Because you deserve to hear the truth from someone who was there. Chun has been carrying guilt for 15 years. Maybe it's time he unburdens himself. The cabin. 2 days later, Elena and Dante drove through winding mountain roads toward Thomas Chen's isolated cabin. The autumn leaves created a canopy of gold and crimson above them, beautiful in a way that felt at odds with their grim purpose. Elena watched the landscape pass, acutely aware of Dante's presence beside her. Over the past weeks, she discovered layers to him that contradicted everything she believed about the Moretti family. He was intelligent, driven, and surprisingly gentle in unexpected moments. He'd visited her father twice without her knowledge, sitting with him during recovery sessions, offering quiet companionship to a man who had few friends left. I know he did, Dante said with quiet certainty. I just can't prove it yet. That's where you come in. Before Elena could respond, the surgery room doors opened. Dr. Morrison emerged, pulling down her surgical mask to reveal a tired but satisfied smile. The surgery was successful. Mr. Martinez's heart is functioning properly. He'll need extensive recovery time, but he should make a full recovery. Elena felt her knees weaken with relief. Dante's hand steadied her elbow, his touch gentle but grounding. Can I see him? He'll be in recovery for several hours, then we'll move him to ICU, Dr. Morrison explained. You can sit with him once he's settled. He won't be conscious for a while, but he'll know you're there. After the doctor left, Elena turned to Dante, emotions overwhelming her carefully maintained composure. Thank you. I know I keep saying it, but I don't know how else to express what this means. Help me find the truth, Dante said. That's all the thanks I need. The investigation begins. 2 weeks later, Elena found herself in Dante's private office, surrounded by documents, photographs, and computer screens displaying information about Marcus Coldwell's 15-year career in city politics. Her father was recovering well in a private facility, still under guard as he remained technically a prisoner, but alive and growing stronger each day. Elena had visited him twice, careful conversations monitored by corrections officers. She hadn't told him about Dante or the investigation yet. She wanted to bring him proof, not hope that might be crushed. Coldwell's wealth increased dramatically in the 18 months following the fire, Dante said, pointing to financial records displayed on his laptop. He purchased 3 properties in the redevelopment zone at well below market value, then flipped them for substantial profits once the area was cleared for new construction. The surgery. 3 days later, Elena stood in the sterile hallway of St. Catherine's Medical Center, watching through a window as surgeons worked on her father's failing heart. Dante had been true to his word. Within 24 hours of their meeting, Ricardo Martinez had been transferred from the prison infirmary to the city's best cardiac center. The top cardiovascular surgeon in the state was now fighting to save his life. Elena's hands pressed against the cold glass, her reflection ghostly in the window. She hadn't seen her father in person for almost a year. Prison visits were expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally devastating. She'd maintained contact through letters and occasional phone calls, always keeping her tone hopeful, never letting him know how much she struggled. The surgery is going well, a voice said behind her. Elena turned to find Dante approaching, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He'd been there since before dawn, though she couldn't understand why. Dr. Morrison said the valve replacement is proceeding without complications. Elena accepted the coffee, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did, Dante replied simply. He stood beside her, both of them watching the controlled chaos of the operating room. When my father died, I was alone. I had money, power, and resources, but I had no one who understood the weight of grief mixed with unanswered questions. I wouldn't wish that isolation on anyone. Elena glanced at him, seeing past the expensive suit and confident demeanor to the man underneath. Tell me about your father's death. Dante's jaw tightened. It was ruled a heart attack. He was found in his study, alone, papers scattered around him. The coroner said stress and his lifestyle caught up with him. But I know my father. He was investigating something in the weeks before he died. He was anxious, secretive, constantly meeting with people from his past. You think Marcus Coldwell had him killed? She didn't know if she was making a deal with the devil or finding an unexpected ally. But as she left Dante Moretti's estate, clutching the folder of evidence that could finally clear her father's name, Elena Martinez felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt like maybe, just maybe, the truth was finally within reach. And she was willing to burn down whatever stood in her way to get it. To be continued in Part 2, Flames of Truth. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below which country you're watching from, and let us know what you think will happen next. Your support keeps these stories burning bright. Fire. Elena stood, pacing the room as she processed everything. Why should I believe you? Your family ruined mine. Because I can prove my father tried to help yours, Dante said softly. He handed her another document, this one showing a series of anonymous donations made to her grandmother over the years. Payments for Elena's education, her grandmother's medical bills, even the down payment on the building where her gallery now stood. My father couldn't prove Ricardo Martinez's innocence without exposing his own organization to investigation, Dante explained. But he made sure you and your grandmother were taken care of. He made sure you had opportunities. The guilt ate at him until the day he died. Elena's eyes filled with tears as she read the documents. All these years, she'd thought her grandmother's sudden financial stability was from a distant relative's inheritance. It had been blood money, guilt money, from the man she'd blamed for everything. I need time to think, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. Your father doesn't have much time, Dante reminded her gently. Let me help him. Let me pay for his surgery. Then decide if you want to help me find the truth. Elena looked into Dante Moretti's eyes and saw the same pain, the same need for justice, the same burning desire for redemption that she carried. They were both children of destroyed families, both seeking answers in the ashes of the past. Save my father, she said finally. Then we'll talk about Marcus Coldwell. Dante extended his hand. You have my word. As Elena shook his hand, she felt the weight of 15 years of hatred and grief shifting, transforming into something new, something that felt dangerously like hope. Trust me with what? With finding the real person responsible, Dante said. With clearing both our fathers' names. With getting justice for what was stolen from us. Elena looked at the man before her, the son of her enemy, offering her everything she dreamed of for 15 years. Felt like a trap. Felt like salvation. My father is dying, she said, her voice breaking. He needs surgery that costs $250,000. The prison won't approve it without private funding. Understanding dawned in Dante's eyes. I'll pay for everything. The surgery, the best doctors, whatever he needs. In exchange, I need your help. Help with what? There's a man named Marcus Coldwell, Dante said, standing and moving back to his desk. He pulled out a photograph of a distinguished-looking man in his 60s with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He was a city council member 15 years ago. He's now the deputy mayor. I believe he orchestrated both our tragedies. Elena stared at the photograph, trying to place the face. Why would a politician care about a small restaurant in your father's business? Real estate development, Dante explained, pulling out a map of the old neighborhood. Look at this. 15 years ago, this entire area was marked for redevelopment. Properties needed to be cleared. Your father's restaurant sat on a prime corner lot. My father controlled several buildings in the surrounding blocks. Coldwell couldn't move forward with his development plans unless both obstacles were removed. So he destroyed my father's life to get a piece of land? Elena felt rage building in her chest, hot and consuming. And he murdered my father when he started asking questions about who really started that fire, Dante added. My father may have been many things, Ms. Martinez, but he didn't target innocent families. When he realized what happened, he tried to make it right. It cost him his life. Just answers, Elena said, remaining standing. Who are you really, and why are you trying to buy my gallery? Dante's expression shifted, a crack appearing in his polished facade. I know who you are, Elena Martinez, daughter of Ricardo Martinez, the man convicted of burning down La Estrella restaurant 15 years ago. Elena's hands clenched into fists. My father was innocent. He was framed. I know, Dante said quietly, and those two words changed everything. Elena stared at him, her world tilting. What did you say? Dante moved to his desk and pulled out a thick folder. I've spent the last 3 years investigating what happened that night. My father, Victor Moretti, died 5 years ago under suspicious circumstances. In going through his papers, I found references to the fire at La Estrella. I found evidence that suggests your father wasn't responsible. He handed her the folder. Elena's hand shook as she opened it, scanning documents, photographs, and handwritten notes. There were bank records showing payments to unknown recipients just before the fire. There were photographs of men she didn't recognize meeting with someone whose face was obscured. There were insurance documents with forged signatures. Why are you showing me this? Elena whispered, tears stinging her eyes. Your father was behind this. This proves it. No, Dante said firmly. It proves someone used my father's organization as a cover. Someone set both our families against each other. My father was murdered, Ms. Martinez. And I believe the same person who destroyed your family destroyed mine. Elena sank into the chair, her legs no longer supporting her. I don't understand. Dante knelt in front of her, his dark eyes intense and sincere. I've been searching for you for 6 months. I learned you'd opened a gallery, that you'd built something meaningful from nothing. I wanted to meet you, to see if you were someone I could trust with what I've discovered. The name Moretti had appeared in her research. 15 years ago, the Moretti family had controlled much of the old neighborhood. Victor Moretti, Dante's father, had been known as a businessman with connections to organized crime. Several properties in the area had changed hands shortly after the fire, including the lot where La Estrella once stood. Elena had always suspected Victor Moretti was behind her family's destruction, but she could never prove it. And now his son was offering her a fortune for her art collection. The phone call. The next morning, Elena received a call from Greenhaven Correctional Facility. Her father was in the infirmary. His heart condition had worsened significantly. The prison doctor recommended immediate transfer to a cardiac specialist, but the prison wouldn't approve it without private funding. The estimated cost: $250,000 for the transfer, surgery, and recovery. Elena felt the universe mocking her. She called the number on Dante Moretti's business card before she could talk herself out of it. He answered on the second ring. Ms. Martinez, I hoped you'd call. I need to meet with you, Elena said. But not about the gallery purchase. I need to discuss something else. Come to my estate this afternoon, Dante replied. I'll send a car for you at 2 o'clock. The estate. Dante Moretti's home was a sprawling property on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by walls and security gates that spoke of wealth and secrets. The car delivered Elena to a circular driveway in front of a modern mansion that somehow managed to feel both imposing and elegant. A butler led her through marble halls to a library with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens. Dante stood by the fireplace, despite the warm afternoon, flames crackling behind him. Thank you for coming, he said, gesturing to a leather chair. Can I offer you something to drink? The cryptic comment hung in the air as he turned and left the gallery, leaving Elena holding his card like it might burn her fingers. The past comes calling. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat in her small apartment above the gallery, surrounded by old newspaper clippings she kept hidden in a locked box. She rarely looked at them anymore. The pain was too fresh even after 15 years. The headlines told a story she knew by heart. Local restaurant destroyed in suspicious fire. Restaurant owner arrested for arson and insurance fraud. Martinez found guilty, sentenced to 20 years. Her father, Ricardo Martinez, had owned a small but beloved family restaurant in the old neighborhood. La Estrella had been a community gathering place, serving authentic food and providing jobs to local teenagers. Elena had grown up in that kitchen, learning her father's recipes and dreaming of one day taking over the family business. Then, one October night, everything burned. The fire investigators found evidence of accelerants. The insurance company discovered her father had increased his policy just 3 months earlier. The prosecution painted him as a desperate man drowning in debt who saw no other way out. Elena had been 11 years old, watching from across the street as flames consumed everything she knew. She remembered her mother's screams, her own tears, and the sight of her father being led away in handcuffs, still smelling of smoke. Her mother had died 2 years later from a broken heart, the doctors said. But Elena knew it was grief and shame that killed her. After that, Elena had been raised by her grandmother in a different part of the city, always carrying the weight of being the arsonist's daughter. But Elena had never believed her father was guilty. She knew him. She knew his honor, his pride in honest work, his love for their family and community. Someone had framed him, and she had spent years trying to prove it. The name hit Elena like a physical blow. Moretti. She fought to keep her expression neutral, but her hand instinctively went to the necklace at her throat. Couldn't be the same family. It couldn't be. The proposal. Dante Moretti's dark eyes assessed her with unsettling intensity. Ms. Martinez, I've been admiring your collection all evening. I'd like to purchase everything. The entire gallery. Elena's breath caught. I'm sorry, what? Every piece, Dante continued calmly. Name your price. I'll pay 20% above asking for each work, and I'll wire the funds tomorrow. Her mind raced. The entire collection represented nearly $200,000 in sales. With his offer, it would be close to $240,000. It was more money than she'd seen in years, enough to expand, to finally breathe, to perhaps even help with her father's mounting legal fees. But the name Moretti echoed in her mind like a curse. I need to know why, Elena said carefully, studying his face for any sign of recognition. Did he know who she was? Did he remember the fire 15 years ago that destroyed her family? I appreciate talent when I see it, Dante replied smoothly. And I believe in supporting meaningful causes. Your mission statement mentions giving opportunities to those who've been forgotten by society. That resonates with me. There was something in his eyes, a shadow of old pain that Elena recognized because she carried the same weight. But she couldn't trust it. She couldn't trust him. I'll need time to consider your offer, Elena said, her voice steadier than she felt. It's not a decision I can make tonight. Dante reached into his jacket and produced an elegant business card. Of course. Take all the time you need, Ms. Martinez. Though I should mention, time is something some of us are running short on. The gallery opening. The champagne bubbles caught the light like tiny diamonds as Elena Martinez moved gracefully through her art gallery. Tonight was supposed to be her triumph. 5 years of hard work, sacrifice, and careful planning had led to this moment. Her gallery, Phoenix Rising, showcased emerging artists from disadvantaged communities. Each painting on these pristine white walls represented hope, transformation, and second chances. Elena wore a simple black dress that spoke of elegance without extravagance. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sophisticated twist, revealing the delicate silver necklace her father had given her on her 16th birthday. It was one of the few possessions she had left from before everything burned down. Ms. Martinez, congratulations on a wonderful collection, an elderly collector said, shaking her hand warmly. Your eye for talent is remarkable. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, Elena replied with a practiced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She had learned long ago to wear masks, to hide the pain that still burned in her chest like embers that refused to die. As the evening progressed, Elena noticed her assistant Maria whispering urgently with a well-dressed man near the entrance. Something about his presence made her instinctively uneasy. He was tall, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples despite appearing to be in his mid-30s. His expensive Italian suit fit perfectly, and he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to power. Maria caught Elena's eye and gestured for her to come over. Elena excused herself from a conversation about abstract expressionism and made her way across the gallery floor. "Elena, this is Mr. Dante Moretti," Maria said, her voice carrying an unusual nervousness. "He'd like to speak with you privately about a significant purchase."